Welcome. Let's start the third session on traffic analysis platforms and frameworks. And our first paper, see the title here, is presented by Anant. So he is a late-stage PhD candidate at Colorado State University, and his thesis focuses on building systems to characterize anomalies in internet routing, such as international detours and outages. And is currently working on IPv6 deployments on the internet, and you will soon be available on the job market.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
All right.
so please go ahead.
Yeah, morning everyone. This is a good time to talk right after coffee, so I'm happy I got this slot. I'm Anant. This work was done with a bunch of people across 3 time zones, but we made it work. So let's quickly get into it. Everybody cares about outages. People lose internet connection. They don't know what to do with their lives. But how do we characterize these outages as measurement researchers, right? So here's an example from the Tohoku earthquake, and this is from a paper I showed from Kenjiro Choi from his Connex 2011 paper. And you can see the synchronous disconnections when the earthquake actually happened. And in this case, this was a very obvious outage because most of the traffic from this ISP went down, and the red ones are the incoming and the blue ones are the outgoing messages. So being at the ISP, it's easy to measure how much traffic is coming in and going out, and you can mark an outage, something what CDNs do and other ISPs also do. But how do we, using public measurements, public platforms, measure this in somebody else's network, right? And in some cases, these outages are not as large as a entire AS going down or a country going down. Sometimes it's just a network going down. So how do we detect small but significant outages? And finally, when an outage actually occurs, how do we localize? Was it something at my end? Was it my provider, or was it something upstream? So localization is an issue. What we have currently is one of the really good techniques. Renocular and John Hademan is here from USCISI. And what this method does is it does adaptive probing of more than 3 million /24s. And you keep track of which /24s are responding, and eventually build up this data set of /24s that you think are active, and also respond to ICMP probing. But the problem with this method is that if the network is behind a NAT, then you probably don't receive anything back, right? Or in case of CGNs, where there are huge chunks of users behind a carrier-grade NAT, and you wouldn't be able to access them. So one of the motivations of this work is how do we build a technique using public measurements, not increasing traffic on the internet, which is already there, and find out outages which are somewhere inside there. So in this case, we used the method we call DISCO, which is monitoring disconnections on RIPE Atlas, and the IP space that we end up monitoring using RIPE Atlas is 25%, out of which 25% is not monitored by Trinocular. So that's a significant data set that we could contribute to the existing outage detection. So this is the proposed approach. We call it DISCO, and the method is to monitor long-running TCP connections and then find out when there are synchronous disconnections in a particular network or an area. So let me give you an example. In this case, this is, I hope you can see the logo, this is Netflix, could be YouTube, could be a CDN serving a large media content. And these servers have a long-standing TCP connection with the client. And what you could do at this monitoring end is you monitor how many clients lose TCP connection at the same time. So in this case, Netflix sees that that particular chunk of users lost connectivity at the same time. Hey, that could be interesting. Right? So in this case, like I mentioned, this gives us the ability to monitor behind NATs. So for this work, we define outage as asynchronous disconnections from the same topological or geographical area. And I don't mean to say that non-synchronous outages might not be interesting. It might be interesting, like if it's your /24, you might still be interested. But for this work, this is what is the most interesting for us to look at right now. So like I said, these are some of the design choices we've made. The 2 important ones that I want to point out are we rely on TCP connections, and as some of you might already know, sometimes the timeouts are dependent on the OS, people could reconfigure them. So by saying that we rely on how the TCP connection disconnects, we are also relying on when TCP decides to give up or when the application decides to tear down the connection. So that's something we would rely on. And the next thing is this assumption that I already mentioned, that bursts of disconnections are indicator of an outage. Right? And we will validate that, and we'll see that that in fact is true most of the time. RIPE Atlas, we've been talking about this throughout this world, but let me give you a quick background. RIPE Atlas is this great public monitoring platform, more than 9,500 active right now. Probes come and go, so about 10,000 probes in many countries, as you can see there. And most of you already know that you can run measurements from RIPE Atlas, right? You can launch a DNS measurement trace route. But these measurements, once they run, they are sent back to the RIPE controlling infrastructure. So there is a SSH keep alive between the controlling infrastructure back at RIPE to all these controllers. And what we do is we monitor the log of connections and disconnections. Connections and disconnections from probes. So in this example, you have these 3 probes connected to one controller at RIPE, and when a particular probe goes down, then this controller announces a disconnect event for probe 3, and that is also logged in an archive data. It is also streamed in almost real time. So we monitor this stream, that's the sole input to this outage detection, which is already existing, so no new measurement data was created, which was one of the design goals in the first place. The methodology we propose is look at the stream of probes disconnection and then split them in terms of which AS this probe was in, which country this probe was in, and then we also define a geographic approximate area, which is basically a 50-kilometer radius from the geolocation of each probe. And that is an approximate we use for a city level radius right now. So the motivation to split this into multiple chunks of streams is if you just look at this aggregate stream from disconnection, it's too noisy. There's no sense to it. You cannot make much of conclusions. What this gives us is this precise granularity of whether it was Comcast, whether it was Time Warner Cable. Once we have this stream of disconnections, as you can see in this example, you had 2 disconnections for this AS, which is not that interesting. In some cases, you might have 3 disconnections at the same time. This might be interesting, so on and so forth. So once these disconnections come in, what we do is we model that as a burst parameter. Right? So this is a burst detection implementation. I'll talk about it a little more. I'll point out to you through the paper as well. It's basically a infinite state automaton, and for each state you have an associated value, and more the rate of arrival of disconnections are closer to each other, the higher the burst is. Right? We've done some effort in making sure that this model works fine with the RIPE data. Specifically, some ASs might have more probes, and some ASs has less, or even countries. Kenya has much less probes than, say, Netherlands. So we've done this modification to Kleinberg's algorithm to make sure that it works across the datasets. And then finally, once we detect bursts throughout all the substreams, there could be outages, there could be disconnections that overlap, obviously. You see a probe in Comcast, which is in US, so it appears in both cases. So we aggregate all that and then come up with a start time when we think the outage started, and end time, and all the different streams that saw this outage. So this will help you to geolocate and say, this is the 50-kilometer radius in particular AS in this country. But let me tell you why we need why we need burst detection first. Right? So let's take a quick example here. In this case, we have a stream of disconnections, and you have 3 outages per minute. And if you just model this as a count metric of how many outages, how many disconnections you see per minute, then you'll just get a flat line. You saw 3 per minute. And even if you reduce the window, then you'll get a flat line for that time window. So that doesn't really help. What burst level gives you is that it captures the fact that these 3 disconnections arrived very close to each other in comparison to this one or this one. And this one was even much closer, so you see that the burst level here is higher. Right? And then we threshold that to a particular threshold. In this case, we use a threshold of 12, and in the paper there's more detail why that's a good metric. And then that's where we would think that this is the outage start time, where you cut with the threshold. So what we got from this outage detection, let me give you an example from Kenya. On June 7, 2016, a monkey jumped into electric grid, and most of the probes in Kenya lost connectivity. And we could see that. we could see, so this first graph is basically all the Kenya probes, and this is the count of connected probes. So we saw that drop around 8:30 UTC. But what also happened is the same day, RIPE decided to reboot the controllers. So obviously the SSH Keep Alive died, and you saw it directly fell down to zero. All the Kenya probes fell down to zero, and that was even more synchronous. So in this case, if you would just look at the count metric, then you would think, yeah, this disconnection is much more interesting to me than this one, right? But what our burst model helps us to do is, because we've done this per stream analysis, we have a separate stream for Kenya probes. You could see that this particular outage, which was at 8:30 UTC, gets a much higher burst level than this one. So this is the more interesting event for Kenya at the time to look at. And this also helps us to account for a fact where you have this measurement noise, where controller reboot is not really an outage, it's something that the ops team need to take care of. Right. So I'm going to quickly talk about the results we saw. Using data from 2011 to 2016, we saw more than 100 outages, and these are significant outages. We saw many more. This number I'm reporting for is outages more than 30 minutes. So we saw 443 outages, which were significant enough. And we do compare that with two different metrics to see if that is a valid outage or not. Right? The good thing, the advantage of using RIPE Atlas is that the probes run continuous trace routes. Right? And when the probe loses connectivity to its controlling infrastructure, the poor guy will still keep running trace route, but it doesn't have any way to send that result back. So all the trace routes are buffered in the probe's memory, and as soon as the connection is made, is back up, it will send that to the infrastructure. So if we go back and do this retro analysis, then we can see the trace, how the outage looked like inside out, how the probe saw the outage, and up to where the trace route could go and then fail. So we do that, and we use that for validating our outage and trying to see where the trace route failed. And the next comparison we do is try to compare that with trinocular. Trinocular models are much different than what we do. We detect synchronous disconnections, while trinocular is much more spread out in an 11-minute probing window. But we found a way to at least have some sense of comparison between the two different data sets and get some validation there. Right. So how do you measure the probing velocity of a probe? Right? Each probe in RIPE Atlas could be running a different set of measurements at a given time. Even though we use only built-in measurements, which are to the name servers, and the anchoring measurements, which are to the anchors, each probe could have a different, not all probes ping to other anchors. So you have this different number of trace routes from each probe, and on top of that, some probes could be more successful in reaching destinations over a period of time, and some probes could always be failing. So if you see a probe which has always been failing to complete a trace route, that's just the normal behavior. Right? So we need to account for that. What we did is we defined this new metric called velocity, and we defined velocity ratio as the ratio of the proportion of completed trace routes after the outage divided by the number of completed trace routes before the outage for a normal duration. So in this case, when I say normal, I mean that Disco said outage started at time A and outage ended at time B. So I'm going to take an hour after time B and an hour before time A, and then try to get this ratio. So because the expected behavior is that the outage is complete, the probe should go back to running the same number of trace routes. So the proportion of completed trace routes should be close to 1. And that's what you see in this behavior. So this indicates that most of the time the ratio is 1. So we are very precise in pointing out when the outage ended and started. Right? And if you model this for just the outage duration between time A and time B, when Disco said this is an outage, then we see a ratio which is much lower. And if you threshold this at 0.5, then you get a precision of 95%. So the timestamps we get and the outages we detect are valid. The second validation we did is compare this to trinocular. And we only used to keep the data set size in something manageable. We looked at 2015 data, and we found that those outages, the 53 outages corresponded to 800 and 850/24s. Out of that, only 43% were responsive to ICMP probing. So this clearly, in this, even though like the aggregate number is 25, for this case, we found that half of the IP space was not monitored using ICMP probing, something as a advantage that Disco can provide. And out of those 53, we found that 33 do overlap with Trinocular. So Trinocular does say the prefixes that can be monitored with ICMP suffered an outage, which is great news for us. We did find 9 outages that were not reported by Trinocular, and these were mostly outages that were less than 1 hour. So maybe these were like really quick and then came back up online, so Trinocular missed them. And there were some cases where you saw this partial detection, and by partial detection I mean I saw 5/24s going down, and Trinocular reports only 2 of them going down. So using that method, we also found a case where we do this recall analysis, like John pointed out earlier. We need to talk about both precision and recall. Disco's precision is 95, and using this analysis, which is an approximate estimate, the recall comes out to be 67%. So let's quickly talk about characterizing these outages. Like I mentioned before, we already have this added advantage of using RIPE Atlas because they run these trace routes even though the probe cannot connect to the controlling infrastructure. So we go back in time, we take this trace routes and see how many of them are complete, how many of them are partially complete, right? So this is what we have for the number of outages. And as you can see, the major chunk is the trace routes 70 to 100% of the time are incomplete, which is what you would expect, that the trace route should not come. There were some cases where we saw this mix that only a small fraction, about 50%, were incomplete. And there was also this nice case where we saw no trace route from the probe, which means that somehow this probe just stopped running its measurement, which is a very nice indicator of a power outage in case of Kenya, for example. And I'll also show you a recent example from Amsterdam with this. All right, so what else can we do with this existing trace routes? We have this trace routes running for a long time. We had the same probe running trace routes the day before. What we do is we learn how the routes look like the day before for a particular measurement. So in this case, this is a probe going to an anchor, I believe. And over a period of time, we could build this probabilistic model where most of the time, say this hop goes to this IP address. And so next time when you see the trace route failing at this guy, then I can say 90%, I'm 90% sure that the next hop should have been this guy, but it seems to be unavailable. Right? So this helps me localize the outage, whereas this IP could be in my transit, a network that I didn't have visibility before. So here's an example from Time Warner Cable. And a funny thing happened during this 2014 outage is there was a larger outage which media mostly focused on, and this is where Time Warner Cable also sent out a report saying, yeah, we did some configuration error and that's why this outage occurred. But if you look at the data from trace routes, we also noticed that there was a burst much before this outage happened. Right? So maybe this is what, maybe the configuration was applied in batches, or they did something, reconfigured and then screwed up again. But something interesting for Time Warner Cable to see that we could detect, and even though like this looks like a much larger outage, because they have the similar synchronous disconnection activity, we find that the burst levels here are similar. So both of them were interesting enough. Also, if you look at the modeling of trace routes during this outage from Time Warner Cable, we found that 73% of trace routes in this particular outage had a forwarding loop. So that might be something that Time Warner Cable could use to quick. Yeah. Somebody commented, you know. Alright, so here's a nice example from Time Warner Cable that I was talking about, from Amsterdam. So we noticed that there was a power outage in Amsterdam early 2017, and we modeled this. We say, okay, how does the burst level look like? And let's see where the probe suffered an outage. And obviously our GeoStream, which is the 50-kilometer radius, captured the fact that within this 50-kilometer radius, probes lost connectivity. And we put that on a graph and we see that does correlate with the Amsterdam geographic area. We also saw that even though there was a power outage, there were some trace routes, 19 if I remember the number correctly, there were some trace outs that were complete from some probes, and that should not have happened because it was a power outage. So we go back and we see what happened in these probes because they were not on the same grid, and we could figure out that all these probes had the same upstream provider, and that provider got overloaded because there was a power outage in main Amsterdam. So we went back and talked with the network operators and tried to get as much information we could. And we could identify that this was indeed a problem between two network elements that they faced because of the power outage. So this just shows the power of detection capabilities, where we could point out exact two network elements, which is based on the trace route probabilistic model, and say where the outage was. So we've been doing this on live stream from RIPE Atlas, and a beta version of it is available on this URL. If you go to that's Internet Health Report IHLab.net, and you can go there and query for your country of interest or AS of interest. And we have data from Jan 2017 available. I will go back and populate from 2011 as well. But this is live data from 2017 that has been running. And we also offer all this data with an API, and here's an example. So you go to this lab and Disco events, and this metric is basically ordering, which is ordering based on what the burst level was. And in this case, you can say stream name. So I want Iran, and it will give you all the probes in a nice JSON format that it thinks suffered an outage from time A to time B and with the burst level. So please play with this, maybe today, tomorrow, or whenever you get time, and shoot me an email, tell me what's nice, what's not nice, if something you want to see. Here's a visualization. Now, since we already have this data, we want to throw it on a graph. I show Ireland here because we are here, and somebody might want to go back and see what happened here. So in this case, this is the burst level. So a higher burst level means that this was an outage, and x-axis is time. This was a nice 30-minute outage in Ireland, if somebody wants to go ahead and see that. We've also been seeing some reports talking about internet connectivity in Iran, and we found this for the past 6 months, yes. And each one of these is like a good chunk of like an hour or more of an outage. So if you go back in time, you will see that this has been seen before. So to summarize, we presented Disco, which is an outage detection system using live TCP connections. We call it fast, good, and cheap. Fast because it's all passive monitoring. We don't generate any measurement traffic. We've done this analysis of 6 years, and it ran in less than 110 minutes. So, and the precision is high, that's why it's good. Recall is considerably high too. It's cheap because it generates no measurement, and it can also monitor beyond NATs. Right? And as I pointed out, we have ongoing near real-time analysis. So play with that and let me know how it is. Thank you. Questions? Mm-hmm.
This connection between the probe and the controllers. How do dual stack probes do this? Do they have one connection, and do they prefer V6? Do they set up two connections, one on V4, one?
This was all V4. We looked at only the /V4s, so this is by default only the V4 connection the probe had. Yeah.
Do you know how the probes do this? Is there one connection to the controller? Or
Yeah, it's.
I don't personally know, but all of the controllers are dual stacks unless we manually disable V6 when we have connectivity issues. So I was going to ask basically the same thing. Like, I was actually going to ask a slightly different question, which is, are you able to differentiate IPv6 outages from IPv4 outages?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And I worked there, right? But I wasn't sure.
For sure. And like
V4 or V6 only.
Exactly. So that's something that is my future work, is to try to correlate these outages between the different protocols. This work was only V4 based.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, given that I think that the Atlas probes are talking V6, does that imply that you're only in this study you're only measuring the sort of the V4 only or V4 preferred networks? Is that a reasonable?
Yeah. I mean, we rely on the log stream from RIPE Atlas.
Yeah.
So if the controller announces that I couldn't reach probe X, then we believe that, so that's the preferred connection it had over V4. then we believe what controller announces. So if the controller lies to us, it has a connection to that probe over V6, but only lost a V4 connection, then we wouldn't know. But that should have popped up in trace routes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since we have a centralized command and control center for write data collection, if any outage is happening in the upstream providers of write command and control centers, how would you differentiate the outage that is happening? Because all of the phones are essentially going to get disconnected from the command center, right? How would you be able to detect or differentiate the outages?
Yes, we would see the burst of disconnection, but in that case, when I do the trace route analysis, then I would see the trace route being successful, because there are also anchoring measurements. So we would see that there is a trace route going up to there and then losing connectivity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would see. Yeah, if your question is, will we see the burst of disconnection? And the answer is yes. So it's kind of also like the controller reboot. We will see the burst. Yes. Yes.
So a comment and then a question. So the comment is Trinocular has some aspect of burst detection also because it requires voting from multiple sites before it declares an outage. But only 3 sites, not
Yep.
here. The question is about the comparison and timeliness of outages, or duration of outages, I should say. So you said 9 of 53 were missed, and they were duration less than an hour. So Trinocular can't detect things less than 11 minutes reliably because that's its probing interval.
Yeah.
So did you try to look at the timing of things that are very short
Uh,
versus things that are medium length?
I can tell you the average. I think the average was 0.8, so a little over half.
0.8 minutes?
So a little over half an hour. No,
Um,
0.8 was like.
okay. Maybe we should talk offline about
Yeah,
those
yeah.
numbers, because we need to drill down on.
For sure, and
Exactly,
see which left
just
and
you know.
why. Yeah, for sure. Any more?
So I can ask a question.
Yes, please.
You had a live website, but
Uh-huh.
do you see live disconnection events, or do you need to? Is it post event, so you need to
Yes,
process
so-
both sides of the disconnection to get a trace
We,
out?
we see it live as soon as RIPE announces
Mhm.
in the disconnection stream that some probes lost connectivity. It's live.
Mhm.
You would see a jump, which could be sequential because as we get data, we will update the burst level, but you should start seeing it immediately.
Mhm.
Which is, and then so the question is how quick RIPE announces it, and the answer for that would be the timeouts are 1 minute.
Mhm.
That's when RIPE would announce that this is an outage. So within a minute, you should be able to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one other small clarification, so your precision and recall were numbers against outages seen jointly by Trinocular and Disco, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the recall of 67% is probably not a recall for all the outages that occurred in the internet.
No, that's for a comparison between prefixes that Disco could see and Trinocular also probe. So
So-
it's not very representative.
Ultimately, any detection system using Atlas is going to be limited by the deployment of Atlas Pro,
For sure.
probably.
Yeah. We won't be able, but it does contribute. There's 25% of space that doesn't respond to ICMP.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
it
Which
does
is very
contribute.
exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's thank Anant again.